And finally tonight, and all this week, we're going to be looking back at the people who shaped the decade. Tonight, in politics, we approach 2010 with David Muir bringing us some unforgettable snapshots.
If only 10 years ago we could have seen the next decade through that magnifying glass. Instead, all we could see were those hanging chads.
Chad, that's the little paper.
Slightly detached.
The presidency hanging in the balance.
Who will be the next president of the United States? It all comes down to the state of Florida.
We want to revote.
It would go all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. Case 00949, 5 votes to 4. The race was over.
Tonight, I offer my concession.
After a difficult election, we must put politics behind us.
It was not long before the new president and our country would be tested.
2 airplanes have attacked the
And the people who knocked these buildings down will hear all of us soon.
Osama bin Laden would become the most wanted man in the world. And he would invade Iraq, a war that would continue long past that mission accomplished. And driving that home in the next presidential election, challenger Howard Dean,
DC to take back the White House.
who would rise and fall. An overmodulated microphone, many believe, was unfairly overplayed. John Kerry would challenge George Bush.
Liberal sissy, you're a right-wing nut job.
It all came down to Ohio. President Bush re-elected.
So help me God.
I am deeply sorry.
There were also the scandals of the decade. New York Governor Eliot Spitzer, who paid for that high-priced prostitute.
I apologize.
Idaho Senator Larry Craig, arrested in a bathroom.
I've been unfaithful.
South Carolina Governor Mark Sanford, missing on the Appalachian Trail. And there was Illinois Governor Rod Blagojevich, too. But this last presidential election would write the most history this decade. The first time ever it would come down to a woman and an African-American vying for the Democratic nomination. But with the math against her, Clinton would, in the end, point to a different number.
Although we weren't able to shatter that highest, hardest glass ceiling this time, thanks to you, it's got about 18 million cracks in it.
Yes, we can.
It was Barack Obama against John McCain.
I got to look you in the face and give you a little straight talk.
And who could forget that Friday afternoon announcement shrouded in secrecy?
Next Vice President of the United States, Governor Sarah Palin.
A little-known governor, little known for long.
The difference between a hockey mom and a pit bull? Lipstick.
Instantly revered by many, and ridiculed too.
And I can see Russia from my house.
With 365 electoral votes, Barack Obama would win. And this country, politically divided, couldn't be divided on this. But this nation had witnessed history.
Well, a sea of change in Washington. The nation's first African-American president takes the oath of office, and Republicans find themselves with the short end of the stick in both the House and the Senate. 2009 has been a remarkable year on the political stage, and our remarkable senior political correspondent, Candy Crowley, had a front row seat.
It was the moment of 2009, literally changing the face of the American presidency.
I, Barack Hussein Obama, do solemnly swear.
The new President Barack Obama began with a 75% approval rating, considerable capital that he spent to create more history.
We have begun the essential work of keeping the American dream alive in our time.
It was one for the books, a massive $787 billion stimulus plan to fuel a failed economy, a huge victory for the neophyte president, and the flashpoint for an emerging political voice.
President Obama, can you hear us now?
The Tea Party people were first out in force on tax day. An umbrella group of furious fiscal conservatives, they protested big government spending and by August, Big Brother overreach. The Tea Party at town halls.
Wait a minute.
They were as effective as they were loud. The right, left for dead at the side of the 2008 campaign trail, stirred, sometimes a bit too vocally. It was that kind of year, bare-knuckles politics, nation-defining moments.
I am an ordinary person who has been blessed with extraordinary opportunities and experiences.
The president wrote more history with the nomination of the Supreme Court's first Latina justice. and he saluted history after the death of Senator Ted Kennedy, a political tour de force, one of the most accomplished lawmakers of the 20th century.
The work goes on, the cause endures, the hope still lives, and the dream shall never die.
Beyond history, there were the politics of the moment. The president made nice at a beer summit with the Harvard professor and the Cambridge cop, and he won a Nobel Peace Prize even he didn't think he'd earned. It wasn't always about the president.
Only dead fish go with the flow.
Who could quit their job as colorfully as Sarah Palin, who left the governor's office in Alaska 18 months short of her first term.
Thank you so much for being here.
She promptly wrote a bestseller, slammed McCain aides for bungling the 2008 campaign, and laughed all the way to the bank. Not laughing.
I won't begin at any particular spot.
Two family value conservative Republicans, South Carolina Governor Mark Sanford and Nevada Senator John Ensign. They looked like presidential material in January and toast by December. Cherchez la femme.
Last year, I had an affair. I violated the vows of my marriage.
I've been unfaithful to my wife.
Despite diminished numbers and some boys behaving badly, it turns out the Republican Party did not die this year. The GOP won governor's seats in Virginia and New Jersey. And the president, who enjoyed in February the approval of 3 out of 4 Americans, had dropped by more than 20 points in December. So ring out the old, ring in the new, and strap yourself in. 2010 is an election year.
And our Candy Curley with us live from Washington. I couldn't think of a better way to wrap up my 2009. So, Candy, your most memorable political moment of the year, what do you think it would be?
Listen, I mean, it is just in the moment, for momentary whoa, as you call it, the what the factor. It is really hard to beat a conservative South Carolina governor who tells his staff he's off hiking in the Appalachian Trails and is actually in Argentina with his mistress, whom he later calls his soulmate, right after apologizing to his wife. So, I mean, I got to tell you, those sorts of stories, they're so shocking, and we love those stories that we can't predict or we don't see coming. So that's great. But just long term, I have to tell you, Grant Park in Chicago on election night, I was there not that far from the president on the press stand. And, you know, even though we saw it coming and the polls saw it coming, there are so few times, you know, history kind of moves in a broad swath, and there are rarely kind of moments that you cover, you think, wow, history book, new page. This was one of those moments, and as a reporter, you know, there was that UPI correspondent that once called White House reporting a front row seat in history. That night was a front row seat in history, so it was amazing to watch, as was the inauguration, but it first hit me that night in Grant Park.
I'm with you. I feel the same way. I didn't get a chance to be there, obviously, but I was at the inauguration, and boy, it's something you'll just never forget. Whether you're a Democrat or Republican, it was an incredible moment in history.
Truly, and it's one of those things where, you know, you see something in a history book and there's very few people that go, oh, I was actually there. So it's when you realize what an extraordinary privilege it is actually to do what we do.
Happy New Year.
You too.
All right, Candy. See you soon.